Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports That back into the video today, and today we're going to be talking about the Houston Texans potentially trading away for now going into upcoming second year wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson. Just got done with his rookie season. Hutchinson was a 6th-round pick, and even though he didn't play much, I know a lot of Texans fans loved what they saw from Hutch in the 2023 training camp, and he was really good in preseason as well. I know he showed out a little bit in the first preseason game against New England. Had a big game. So did Tank Dell as well. Both rookie wide receivers, Xavier Hutchinson and Tank Dell, in that first preseason game against New England were excellent, and I think it showed a lot of Texans fans what the future was with those two guys at wide receiver. I think Hutchinson really showed himself throughout the rest of preseason. I went to a couple of training camp practices, and even if I wasn't there at the training camp practices, I saw clips and videos throughout all those days, and absolutely enjoyed watching him play. And, he absolutely went nuts in training camp, and was amazing in spring. I keep saying I'm sorry. I keep saying spring training because we just got done with MLB spring training. So I mean training camp. If I do say spring training on accident, I do mean training camp. I mean, it's the same thing. It doesn't really matter. So Hutchinson only played 16 games in the regular season for the Texans. He had 19 targets with 8 receptions and 80 receiving yards with 3 first downs. But I also want to remind everybody that when everybody was healthy, Hutchinson, which not everybody was always healthy. I mean, Robert Woods had injury problems throughout the season. Noah Brown had injury problems throughout the season. Eventually, Tank Dell went down and missed the remainder of the season. Nico Collins missed a game or two throughout the year. So I think Nico Collins missed 2 games throughout the year. So not everybody was always healthy. But when everybody was healthy, Xavier Hutchinson was the 6th best wide receiver on the team. And so he wasn't, it wasn't his year. Now, I think a lot of people thought, okay, either 2024 or 2025 is when he's going to get to show himself. But now the Texans bring back Noah Brown. They trade for Stephon Diggs. Obviously, Tank Dell and Nico Collins aren't going anywhere. You have Robert Woods still on the team. You have John Mechie. Look, in the world, someone has to, in this wide receiver room, someone has to go. Someone has to go. And I think Xavier Hutchinson is probably on the top of the list. But I prefer for the Texans to keep Xavier Hutchinson. Do not trade him. Keep him on the team. Keep John Mechie on the team, and let go of Robert Woods. Cut Robert Woods because you paid Robert Woods a 2-year, $16 million deal. You clear cap space before the draft if you cut him. So cut Robert Woods. Should clear about $6 to $8 million in cap space. Cut Woods, and you have young talent like John Mechie or Xavier Hutchinson. I'm going to say this right now. It would be plain out stupid for the Texans to get rid of either Hutchinson or Mechie. Either or, it doesn't matter. Because look at the 7 guys who are in the wide receiver core right now. I only see 4 guys who I think are part of the Texans' long-term future. Stephon Diggs. He had another 3 years left on his deal. If the Texans wanted him a part of the long-term future, they would have not done that. Now, I think a lot of the reason of doing that with Diggs was because you don't want to be stuck with his contract if he turns out to, be washed if you get him. That was actually smart. I actually really like the Texans doing that. It was smart because it leaves yourself in a position where you don't have yourself with a terrible contract. Now, obviously you could re-sign Diggs if he plays well and he wants to stay in Houston for another year. But there is no chance of any long-term future with the Texans. No Brown, signed to a 1-year deal. No, there's no plan of him being a part of the long-term future with the Houston Texans. And honestly, with how good C.J. Stroud made Noah Brown look, if he has another good season for the Texans, there are going to be teams lining up to potentially bring him in as a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3, knowing how good he was, or potentially could be next year with the Texans. Last year he had like almost 600 receiving yards, wasn't even healthy, wasn't even the number 1 or number 2 option on this Texans team. So imagine, I think if he has another good year with the Texans, there are going to be teams lining up to throw him some decent money, or if not decent money, a better spot on the wide receiver core. So I think about that, number one. But even if that doesn't happen, still, he's only a 1-year contract. There are no guarantees of him being in the long-term future for the Texans. So Noah Brown and Stephon Diggs are two guys who, we have them next season, but there's no guarantee after that. And then here comes Robert Woods, because just like Stephon Diggs and just like Noah Brown, Robert Woods as well is a free agent going into the 2024 offseason. That would be the 2025 offseason. That's my bad. So the 2025 offseason, you have Robert Woods as well as a free agent for the Texans. So there are no plans of him being a long-term future. Now look at guys like John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson. If you get rid of them now, they'd be under contract for the Texans going into the 2025 season. I think it'd be stupid to let them go now. And I also think if they weren't under contract for the 2025 season, those are two guys right there that would be willing to re-sign with the Texans. And I think trading young talent away would definitely be stupid on the Texans' end. Look, you only need to cut one of these guys. You don't need to get rid of multiple, because the Texans used 6 wide receivers last year. Last year, we saw Nico Collins, we saw Tank Dell, we saw Noah Brown, we saw Robert Woods, we saw John Mechie, we saw Xavier Hutchinson. They can do that again, and especially with the injury problems the Texans had at wide receiver. Noah Brown had injury problems, Robert Woods had injury problems, Tank Dell had injury problems, and Nico missed 2 games as well. I'm trying to think if there were anything else. John Mechie played 16 games, but he has had leukemia in the past, so definitely there's a chance that injuries could happen in his future. You never know. So I think to have 6 talented wide receivers with a team that could have some injuries pop up at the wide receiver position. Diggs hasn't had a lot of problems, but it would be good. That's what the Texans used last year, and there were still injuries. So, but I think Robert Woods has to be the guy to go, and this is my opinion. And I think Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie both have a really good future with this team, and I think to let them go would just be stupid. What are your thoughts on the Texans potentially trading Xavier Hutchinson in the comment section? And peace out. Go Texans.